Hello everybody, Father Andrew here. I'm going to be honest, as much as I love the design of the Iron Lung popcorn bucket, $47.20 in shipping is ludicrous. Like, that's near enough $70 when you put it all together. So I decided that I'm going to make my own. Because think about it like this, right? Why would you pay $70 for a simple popcorn bucket that you could, make yourself? And they're going on about all this 3D printing crap, as if that makes it any better. A 3D printer at its cheapest is like $130. And let's not forget the $30 of, spool you're gonna need. So that comes to $160. That's nearly double. It's basically double, near enough. This is why I'm making my own. All this comes together for less than $35. And you could make your own with just this. I got some leftover red paint from some redecorating, some cheap paints down there, PVA, a $1 bin, a plastic bowl, some wire for gardening, a paintbrush, a pair of scissors. This is all you need to make your own, and I'm going to be documenting that process as we go through this video. Another thing regarding those popcorn buckets is, if you order one this year, it's not being shipped out till October, which, why are you going to wait that long? You're supposed to get a free small popcorn when you take it into the theater, but that deal is probably going to expire by the time it arrives. If you build your own, using these, you don't have to wait. It'll take a few days, granted, because the glue has to dry, but that's a lot quicker than waiting for it to arrive in October. The first thing you want to make is a rough wire frame that is in the shape of the creature's upper head and its jaw. I'm going to try and spin this around to give you a better view of the process here. I cut and bent a bunch of that wire to create this crude frame, which is the general shape of the creature. You've got the upper head, the jaw, and it's all attached. It's all just kind of held on by tape at the moment, but this is just a scaffolding. The next step is the foundation from which everything else will attach to. That lid down there will also be kept, because the methods we're using to build all this, you can make the big blood spout that comes out of the mouth using that, because that sits inside this upside down. The next step is to cover the entire thing in masking tape. This allows you to get everything covered with a stable skin that the paper mache can cling to in the next phase. It's going to show this whole thing off. It's already sort of taking the shape, as you can see. Flip this around. The teeth will be the last part, but as you can see, it's taking shape. The next step is the actual paper mache, which involves that bowl there. For the next step, what you want to do is you want to start covering this in PVA glue and some sort of paper. For this, I'll be using toilet paper because it's absorbent and will soak in some of the glue. The glue's drying time is completely relative to heat, humidity, and airflow. So you want to just put some on, like that. Take a piece of tissue, apply it, take some more glue, and cover it. You want to do this across every single bit that has paint. Not paint, correction. Painting tape. That's, well, masking tape, painting tape, whatever you want to call it. And what will happen is when this dries, this will keep any of this from peeling, because you can see some is already peeling here. That will stop any of that from happening. And once you get your first layer on, you can start to thicken up layers and you can start sculpting detail. And then you can start making the teeth last. But I recommend the teeth be done last and separately. Then you can glue them on and attach them however you wish. You can also put them in whatever pose you want. Because if they're all splayed out, it's probably easier to reach in. But if they're all curved inwards, it'll be harder to get your hand in there. So yeah. We are partway done with the first layer. I've got the jaw covered. The underside of the jaw covered. I need to do the head and the inside of the mouth around the head area. If you want to dry this out faster, I recommend taking a hairdryer and just going at it with warm air for a bit and keeping it generally around the whole thing. Don't focus on one spot, and it will speed up the drying time, which will allow you to get faster work done on it. And alright, that's the first coat done. Add a little detail at the bottom there for the neck, similar to the actual bucket itself. Turn it around, you can see how it looks. I'm going to have to give this, unfortunately, 24 hours or 12 hours to dry fully, as the glue, even when I hit it with this to dry it a bit more, the glue is very thick, and it's got a lot of moisture to evaporate out, so I'll have to come back to this tomorrow. You've probably noticed this bowl is now empty. Well, I ran out of PVA glue, I'm going to need to get more, but regardless, this is now decently dry enough that I decided to put on some details. I made them by twisting some toilet paper into shape and then sticking on with some super glue. This is just a twisted piece of toilet paper made into a circle, glued on. That's a straight length that was twisted and glued on. These are the same thing, just covered with some tape. And the pupil was made in the same way as this, but just cutting it to length and putting a thinner bit around it. I managed to blow dryer it enough to make it stable enough to actually do this. But what I recommend is you don't actually need super glue to do this. You can do it with PVA, but it will just take longer to dry. So I would personally recommend using super glue just for fine details like this. Outside of that, I'm going to have to, unfortunately, resume this tomorrow once I have the PVA glue I need. Okay, it's the next day. I've got 2 more bottles of glue because I ran out. I'm not going to use that bowl anymore. I'm just going to apply it directly on and brush it on. And the method I used to make these eyes, I've also used to make these smaller markings, which you can see on the actual 3D model, and those rib-like patterns below. With that done, now, because this is all exposed masking tape, now I need to apply another layer of toilet paper, paper mache over these to give it the same texturing as the rest of the body. Okay. I've given it another layer on the front, and another layer on the back. With that done, the next thing I could do is paint it, but first I need to make teeth on this side and this side. However, for actually making the teeth, I'm going to show you what I did. This is a similar method to how I made the rings for the eyes, but you just twist some tissue paper until it's a cone like that, and you could either soak this in PVA and let this dry, or you can use super glue. I'd honestly recommend super glue because it will dry quicker and then you can put the teeth in. But I recommend leaving a dry section at the bottom. That way you can cut it off and you can position the tooth, glue it into place, and put it however you need. The way you keep the bottom dry when you do it is by hanging it upside down and applying the super glue this way. That way it soaks down into the paper and doesn't become, like, absorbed upwards, which would ruin the base. Just apply some, like that. And that will dry. You may have to go around the other sides of it, but you get the idea. Once you have a bunch of teeth made, like these ones down here, I recommend, as I said, keeping a soft section at the bottom. Then what you can do is press it against the inside of the mouth like this to see the kind of angle you want. This will give you an idea of how to attach the teeth later, but I recommend using one of 2 methods going forward. Either paint the teeth white and the body and all that, and then attach the teeth later, or you can attach the teeth now and paint the whole thing in separate bits. You'd still have to paint these white regardless, but still, I'm going to be going through this one by attaching the teeth first, and that involves doing this. The first thing you want to do to actually attach the tooth is you've got it marked down here. You cut the tooth down here, and now you have a little platform there that will adhere here. You just gotta put a little super glue on there. A little super glue on the soft spot. This is a bit. Go. A little super glue on the soft spot. You cut the thing, you place it on. I don't even know if the camera caught that, because the camera went out of focus. But you press it on, and there you go, tooth is attached. I'm gonna put a little more there. You might get little bits of seams under the tooth where it hasn't attached properly, like, for example, if I bring this closer, you may see a slight seam just down here. That can be covered up with a bit of paper mache later, but just gotta fix the teeth in, and there you go. Repeat that for all your teeth. More super glue than I thought it would need later, and we have all the teeth in. The teeth are very catchy. Honestly, now I think about it, the actual design of this would not make a good popcorn bucket because of all the teeth. But the point is, we're trying. The last thing I need to do now is I need to put some more paper mache around the sockets of these teeth so that they look a bit smoother, and then I can get to painting it. Had to adjust the camera because it kept going out of focus. That should hopefully be the last layer of paper mache I need to apply. Now all I need to do is blast it with the hairdryer, dry it out, and then paint it, hopefully. Alright, I just finished blasting it with the hairdryer. It's looking pretty good. The last thing to do is paint it. Okay, it's the next day. The bucket has finished drying off, but the reason it's the next day is because it turns out the paint I used contains turpentine and kerosene. I best advise you that if you're going to get paint, check the back of it to make sure it doesn't contain these two, because if it does, it's going to stink horribly while it's drying. In spite of that, the buckets actually come out quite good. I just need to paint the eyes and the inside of the mouth. I also need to paint the teeth white if any red gets on them, but now to do that. Honestly recommend using Dulux paint over this quick drying black paint that I use for the body, because Dulux paint doesn't give off a massive horrible stink every time it's used. You can also get small tester pots for around this size for a fairly cheap price, so I'd recommend going with something like this as opposed to that. I used this custom small brush to paint around the eye sockets and around the base of the teeth. Interesting little story about this small brush. At one point when I was working with some super glue, some got on my hand and got into my hair, and a piece of my hair got stuck together, so I had to cut it off, and it perfectly formed what would be the ideal shape for a brush, so I thought, you know what, it'd make a good detailing brush, and I stuck it on a little piece of wood. So yeah, a little accident with some super glue accident created a perfect detailing brush, which I use for things like this and going around the teeth. You can buy brushes like this that are already this kind of size, but happy accident resulted in the perfect tool for doing things just like this. Questionable choices of tools and paint aside, the last thing I need to do is paint the pupils. I need to repaint the teeth because some red got on them. Outside of that, the bucket's nearly done. And for that painting, I'm going to be using some white paint emulsion stuff that I already had stored away, because the white paint I actually got is just as bad as the black paint I used. It's the same quick drying crap, which is going to make an absolute stink. Anyway, now to get this painted and jump cut to that. And there we go, I've painted the teeth white. I also had to go around the base a bit more with some red, and in that opportunity, I painted red blood streaks down the sides. As you can see, it is finished. Is it safe to eat out of? Probably not. But does it look cool? Does it look similar to the actual original product? Yes, it does. There's no great big red splash coming out of here, and that white lid over there, I could have used that as the base from which to create the big red splash that comes out of its mouth, but I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to do that. I'm happy with this the way it is. And you know what? Overall, it came out pretty good. I'm not going to eat popcorn out of it. I think I'm just going to hang it up somewhere as like a I might put a wooden board behind it and mount it on the wall as like a giant fish head. I could do something like that with it, but also paint the inside red as well. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the way this came out. There's a few ways it could be better, like there's a little bit of red schmutz that happened to get on it around here. And a little bit here. I'm not going to crack out the black paint though, just to repaint those, because that stuff, again, completely reeks. But overall, the production of this is much less than what an actual bucket would cost, and making it custom means you could have as many teeth in whatever position as you want. And yeah. I'm aware that there's no text saying iron lung on it. I'm very aware of that. I deliberately chose not to put that on, because now that I think about it, it just kind of makes it look ugly. Outside of that, that's all I've got to say for this video. This was not really a DIY tutorial, this was more just me attempting to make one DIY myself. It took 2.5 days to get done. It could have taken at most a day or a day and a half, but unfortunately it took 2.5 days due to 1, the stink of the black paint, and 2, it being extremely cold right now, so the PVA paper mache took longer to dry than I expected. Still, better than blowing $70 and waiting till October. But 3D printing something like this would probably take a day and a half. Not just that, but painting it as well would probably make that 2.5 days. Let's not forget, $130 just to 3D print something like this. And also the $30 for filament, and let alone whatever price you're going to be paying for the paint. Which comes to around $160, maybe $170, $180, just probably even $200 at that point. I think what I should have done with this is use food-safe paint and food-safe, like, coating and stuff to protect it, so it was waterproof. But unfortunately, I don't have any of that, and those will probably cost me a lot more. Regardless, the most I could probably do now is spray it with some kind of protective layer to make it food safe and all that and waterproof, but it's too late to do that, and really I'm just going to use it as decoration. Anyway, I don't really have anything else left to say. That's all for this video. I'll hopefully see you around next time. Goodbye.